What's going on? It's your boy DameSmiff, and today we're going to explore another concert without sound. And today's song or performance is by Boldy James, and with his song Double Hockey Sticks. Now, the things we're going to be focusing on in the video is basically what I look at and what I observe when I'm, let's say, attending a live performance or just observing one. And this will be from the perspective of a musician, and it's more so a way to kind of dig into how musicians think about performances, what they should be thinking about, how to improve, or then, ways to make it fun and things like that. So if you're interested in conversations like this, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more. So let's get into it. So the first thing we have here is Senor Boldy. And the first thing I want you to really take note of is the venue itself. The venue is itself is kind of like a kind of just a regular hall or stage where you got your typical stage of venue, curtains, balconies, and things like that. The awesome part about venues like this though is that if you can pack venues like this out, they're usually in locations, a theater. That's the word I'm thinking of, a theater. They're usually in locations that are usually in like college towns or maybe more working towns and things like that. So they usually have like a really consistent flow of customers and people attending and things like that. So if you can find your niche in a genre of music, it doesn't have to be hip hop or anything like that. These venues will prove to be very, very beneficial if you can pack them out. Now, the key to packing them out is, of course, having a great, adoring and supporting fan base. But you want to have kind of like a product that you know that this kind of group of people will gravitate towards and they want to see more and more of. So let's get into it. So as he comes out on stage, you see he gives a quick signal to his DJ to kind of signify that the set is starting and that they know what's going on. I don't know who the young man is with him, but I'm going to assume he's a part of the show. He's not just some, random fan. But now the cool thing about being a rap artist is there's a lot less to worry about as far as bandmates. You don't have to really worry about conducting and things like that. That's usually dealt with, through the DJ. A lot of the music is already pre-recorded, so as long as you can rehearse timings and things like that and make sure your effects are going in perfectly, you should be good to go. I don't know if the lights and the smoke are a part of the show or if it's just a part of the venue, but that would be a great effect. Now, one thing I do want to note here is that a lot of um hip hop artists, they tend to carry an entourage. Like this little dude, he's actually making the show better. He's actually really adding to the show. I like his energy. But when you just have it's a technical thing that I have a critique of for hip hop. But when you have the musician here whose sole job is to basically entertain the crowd, these people back here look like an eyesore. Okay. And it's only because of this. When you're in school for music and you're doing a showcase or there's a lot of schools or a lot of artists or musicians about to perform on the same stage, these group of people make sense to be there because they may be next, they may be a part of the next performer's entourage or band or whatever, so it makes sense. I don't know if that's this performance's situation, but usually this is a visual eyesore for most performances. Now, if you go into higher end performances like, Vegas and stuff like that, the only time you'll see people just standing on stage waiting during a performance and not necessarily a part of it are usually artists that demand it. It's not necessarily something that is a part of the show, so they're gonna be removed. So that's the only real gripe I have with not Boldy, but just hip hop performances in general. I think everything on stage should be on stage. So if your friends want to be on stage, that's cool, but they gotta be like him, man. They gotta be turning up. Spliff Star with Busta Rhymes, like that's the only way you should be able to get on stage. So as we continue through, I think another thing to notice is that there are a lot of people filming. Like there's a lot of camera work going on. So if you could really take advantage of that as an artist, that would be helpful for your brand. Now, I don't know how it works as far as enforcing like a copyright or things like that. I think for the most part, these people taking their pictures and video, they own it. So if you understand that, you can use it to your advantage. A lot of musicians usually have problems with people that pull their phones out during performances. I understand it, but it's kind of like the nature of the beast today. Like these people come here to get content from you. And so another thing I noticed here, outside of, the really, really cool equipment they got going on, I was trying to get a peek. Boldy is trying to really MC here. He's like actually like taking control of the crowd and making sure things are going how he plans it to go. I noticed, at least for younger rappers and things like that, their idea of a performance is to get on stage, click your sticks, do your set, and then leave. And I think that is the disconnect between a successful artist like Boldy here and most rappers that usually can rap really well or write music, is that you're not really creating a rapport or an emotional connection with your fans on stage in combination with the music. And so, simple gestures like, throw your hands in the air, little dude hopping around, like all this stuff is energy that they want to feed off of. I made a video recently saying that most average people, or the average American, has to be a superstar. Like, whereas Boldy, I'm sure in a lot of his lyrics, he's relatable. When he's on stage, he can't be relatable. Like, we gotta basically see a superstar. That's why little dude's got a chain. He's got the flyest shirt. He's up there just doing his energy. Boldy's with him. Everybody's got to be like on a million. Oh, it's Alchemist in the back. Okay, I didn't see who was DJ. Yeah, Alchemist in the cut. I like Alchemist. He's awesome. But I think for the most part, this performance is pretty straightforward. There's not much to really dig into other than maybe listening to the music and things like that. I will say this: if you are a hip hop artist, there will be some times, especially starting out, if you don't write music that is motivating people to be high energy, there will be times where little dude like this will make a lot of sense, where you will need a hype man just for the live performance of your music, okay? Because Boldy, I've heard a lot of his music, and it's really, really good driving music. It's good smoking music. It's good like sit down and talk and chill, or just listen to what he's rapping music. But when you're on stage, there just becomes a certain energy that's expected of hip hop artists. Now I know it will work better in smaller venues because you can be as intimate as this video. I could just be talking right to your eardrum. But the thing is, when you have like 100 people in a room, 50 people in a room, and you're the source of entertainment, you have to basically verbiate all of the energy of your song, yourself, your personality to each and every person. And it really is that serious. Because if you don't, then you will get people saying, this is whack, or they won't come back to your shows, or they'll tell people not to go see your shows and things like that. So that's one of the things many hip hop artists are going to struggle with, because a lot of these fans aren't high energy. So if you get to a show and you're realizing your fans aren't, jumping up and down, they're not rapping your lyrics, they're not banging their heads, it's got to translate, and it's just not. That's the issue you have. That's how I think the artists like the Baby, Tech Nine, Busta Rhymes, they have a lot of high energy music. Shoot, even Beyonce, like it goes beyond her album and her songwriting as you've heard it in your headphones. When you go to the live performance, it's very different. And so that plays a big role. Now, I think the last things we can kind of see here is that there's a lot of equipment in the back and a lot of really, really expensive things as far as technology that's involved here. I don't know if this is, Boldy's equipment, or if it's like a mix of the venue and things like that. There's a lot of different situations you can find yourself in. But let's say, for example, Boldy didn't bring these monitors down here, right? But him and his team, they brought these cases that may have had like some extra monitors, some headphones, maybe cases for Alchemist's DJ setup, some records for maybe some samples they want to spin and things like that. Maybe a little dude here, he had a suitcase or two and things like that. When you're going to these shows, securing all this stuff while you're performing is going to be very important. Again, that kind of makes, when I see a bunch of people standing on stage, it makes me weary, because I've been in situations, not bad ones, but like situations where like you have a trumpet that's just laying about and no one knows where it came from or something like that. And so things like that can be a red flag for a musician, for a stage director, for a music director, any band manager. Is things like that are worrisome because you don't know who's walking around, you don't know who's going to take the instrument, who's responsible enough to keep their eye on it. If we're all busy, is anything going to happen to it? So something little like that. It can be a trumpet, it can be a missing USB drive, it can be, maybe Boldy's jacket went missing one time and there's just like 80 people on stage and we got to figure out who took it. That just feels uncomfortable to me. So that's just me. Now I know y'all like y'all friends and stuff like that, but I just wouldn't do it. Now, I guess we could kind of like, I'm not super nerdy as far as like breaking down each little piece of equipment here, but I do like how minimalistic Alchemist's setup is. Because his beats are so fire. It's like he don't really need to be doing a lot of like crazy theatrics. So I guess if you're brand new to like live DJing, or if you're brand new to working with a DJ, maybe you're a singer and you're like, I just want to have somebody just play my track and I perform my song. This is a great setup for your DJ or the person who's going to be running your backing track. And though it can look a little messy with the cables and things like that, if you understand what you're looking at, it's not that crazy. So essentially he has the DJ controller here, right? And all this does is this controls the music. It makes the music do what Alchemist would like it to do. So if he wants it to go slow, go fast, play backwards, maybe he wants to do some scratches, maybe he wants to layer one song on top of another so he can invent a whole new sample, however he wants to do it. Some of these have actual buttons that allow him to play MIDI. So this cable down here might send signals into his computer that'll play a sound that he's loaded up, maybe like a trumpet or a whole new sample of a movie or something he wants to play, and then it'll play it right back into the controller. And all of these sounds in the controller and the computer will go through this right here, which is usually called a, I'm blanking right now, but I think it's called an inbox. But this box right here basically will turn that signal of all these sounds and his music that he's playing and take it all the way down here into, which is basically a junction box, if you want. I'm just trying to simplify it for people who have no idea what I'm talking about. This takes, let's say, his DJ equipment. If there was another guitar player, plug that in there. A bass player, plug that into there. Maybe there was a second DJ who's playing more sounds, plug that in there. All these people will plug into this big old box. And that box can separate all of those people into different speakers, which is this little speaker right here next to his feet. This speaker is typically called a monitor. I was speaking about these earlier with Boldy. These basically play the music for the artist to be able to hear, maybe themselves as well as the band or the backing track, without having any kind of feedback ruining the experience for the audience. So now, while he's making all of his performances and changes and things like that, he's mixing the music basically, he can hear what's going on, and he can hear Boldy, our rapper here, he can hear him rap and perhaps even talk to him so they can communicate clearly, which is very key because they're going to have, at least in performances that are a little more spontaneous, they're going to have to be able to communicate clearly. Now, I guess that's pretty much the gist of this setup. Is basically his instrument, which would be his DJ controller, his computer, which allows him to customize the sounds and really understand and manage the entire performance. All of that signal gets sent through these two boxes out through this speaker so he can hear what's going on, and then sent to, let's say, the sound engineer, which is probably over here, is probably this person right here. This person controls the sound that the audience hears. So this person makes sure everything that they're playing and everything that Boldy's playing sounds beautiful to the audience. And that's essentially how the entire performance would work. Now, as an artist, if I were to look at this and try to critique it and nitpick and make it better, I would try to clean this up a little bit, but I don't know the nature of the gig, because sometimes, even though this is literally the legend himself, Alchemist, this could have been like a quick gig, like a quick, very like, let's get in here, set up your equipment, you got a certain amount of time, and then you do what you need to do and you get out, So I'm not really, it's not a bad thing to look at it like this, but there are situations where you could streamline this aesthetic for yourself as a DJ. And so what you could do is this sheet on the table could have maybe a logo, maybe it just says Boldy James on there, maybe it has the Alchemist on there, the Alchemist and Boldy James on the cover, whatever. Now that's just me just trying to market, right? But then the next thing is you could try to find a way to get all these cables cleaned up, and that's where your engineer brain would kick in, and it's just basically cable management. Just making sure all your cables are in order and just not junky and clunked up and stuff like that. Now, mind you, again, this is musicianship. This is how it works. You get in there, you plug things in, and you do what you need to do. This is not necessarily a gripe. Like you can look at the sound engineer back here, who's probably the house sound engineer. Even there's like, crazy cables going on. So most of the time when you're going into venues like this, don't expect like, top notch service unless you're going to help provide it in a way. If you're not going to be the person to come in there with all your equipment ready to go, clean, and you got all your logos lined up and you got your stage set up and ready to go, then it's cool to do what you need to do and it looks the way it got to look. You're still alchemist. you're still the man in these streets. So I think that's just me nitpicking. It's not necessarily anything to really worry about. Now, again, I guess if you did want to find another nitpick, this performance, even though it could, go viral and do amazing numbers and help the song, as far as it competing with, let's say, a mainstream pop artist, this ain't gonna do it. But this will do amazing numbers for your fan base. Now, understanding that is going to be key for you as an artist. Being able to deliver basically, which is a really good product, which is this performance here. This is really good to your fans consistently, because we like to see videos like this. We love to see stuff like this, but you can't really do this often because you want them to come to the shows and pay for the tickets. Look at all these people, right? And so I think that's the key thing we got to always remember when we're worrying about being successful artists and things like that, is like, how do we want this package on stage to look? And that's generally the whole point of this series, is to kind of pick on how I see some of it. I want to hear some of how you view performances and the performances we're looking at, and let me know, how do you think Boldy James did on his performance with Alchemist on his song Double Hockey Sticks? And I'll link the video below so you guys can check it out with the music and everything and take the full performance in. But if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit the like button, share, and subscribe. I will be making more videos like this coming to you soon. Peace.